Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, we're doing another TMNT comic episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's showing in North New York, I guess, where we are tonight?
The Northampton groundskeeper, Red Fox.
So, as you heard at the top of it, so we are bringing you another TMNT comic. We are continuing our quest through the TMNT, which I'm greatly enjoying. So you will also see a link in the show notes to all the other TMNT episodes, including the comic ones that you should listen to if you haven't yet to continue along with us. Or just read the comics too. There won't be a link for that, but you should. You know, I should get a link for Amazon. Like, hey, buy this. You know, but I don't have that. I could. Partner with Amazon. All right. We're going to be talking about two different little arcs, the Northampton and the Outram Empire, which happened at the same time for this. So that's going to be what we're digging into for this episode. Which I got to say, as a guy who didn't read this before, like, after coming off City Falls, like, you're at the top of the freaking mountain with intensity. And then this does a really good job. Like, we're going to bring it down. We're going to calm down. Like, there's not, like, it's just such a different arc.
Yeah, there's not overall, like, a lot of conflict. I mean, other than, and we'll get to the current conflict, but, like, other than that, it usually happens more so in flashbacks and stuff like that.
It was much different. And I wasn't sure how I felt that the art is also different because it's not, well, you know, different artists. So, like, April looks completely different. Casey looks different. The Turtles look a little different. I mean, that's just comics in general. So,
yeah, it's always going to happen. I mean, and it's hit or miss usually as with bigger series are going down the line. But sometimes I like the change. I mean, sometimes it's nice to see a little something different.
Yeah, it didn't bother me. I will say that it wasn't. They drew her. They drew April. Okay, it was no frog face April, so we're good.
Yeah, it was passable.
I'm still upset with that one.
That was the worst one I think I can remember seeing is that frog face one.
God, it was bad. And like this issue starts off with just, you know, it shows you New York, it shows the church, and it just shows like everything abandoned because they left. They had to get out. It shows StockGen all blown up, which plays a part later. And
one thing they do show, like even in the covers themselves, like look at how colorful and different and scenic the covers are compared to the usual gritty New York setting we got. So it kind of sets the tone even so with the covers.
And I think we needed that too. Like after I mean, I didn't realize this, but like I read this arc like right after we finished talking about City Fall, and then I waited a bit, like a week, and then I read it again, or maybe even 2 weeks, however long it's been since we did City Fall. And it's kind of like I kind of needed that. Like I needed that break, and then I needed something that wasn't intense to read after just how intense City Fall goes.
Right, and the writers knew that, and they pulled it off pretty good.
Yeah, I was impressed. Like, I mean, it starts off with April and Casey driving the Turtles in a van. You know, they're all beaten up. Splinter's got the broken leg. Leo is not Leo yet. He's still, you know, trying to figure out what happened. And they're just driving into the woods, which to me is like, oh, that's nothing. You're driving, you're just going up, you know, a little bit north of, you know, like when I lived in Milwaukee, you didn't go far. You're out in the middle of nowhere. But this is New York, where going out to like country is a weird thing, I think. Compared to like what
it's a bit different. I think it's actually takes place in Jersey. Northampton is in Jersey. I want to say it. Don't completely quote me on it, but I want to say it is New Jersey.
If only we had the ability to look that up or care enough. Jersey would make sense.
Technology.
I feel like a lot of New York people go to Jersey.
They do. It's not very far.
I mean, it's a lot closer than what I would think of. Like, I mean, for me to cross the state, well, then not that far, but still, it's like, yeah. Okay. And then the idea that they go to a barn because April's going to go see her family who lives in this big house, has a barn, but of course, you know, turtles might not be welcome in the house because you have to explain why you have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
And a big giant rat.
So she leaves them in the barn, gives them their stuff, and then she goes to the house. And it's like right away you have a part where Leo's sleeping. Raphael tries to wake him up, and Leo just kind of freaks out a bit, which, again, makes sense.
Yeah, he's completely traumatized and isolating himself until he can figure this out.
Which, I mean, he went through terrible PTSD from what happened. I mean, it makes sense. Like, the guy was, you know, mind-controlled and tricked, and the only thing that really snapped him out of it is the idiot couldn't get, like, hey, I killed you in your past life by cutting off your head. Let's cut off more people's heads. You know, that won't trigger anything.
Not at all.
So, I always find that interesting that, like, he just never got over that. He just loved cutting people's heads off.
Yeah, Shredder has kind of a fetish with that.
Of beheading people. Yes, he does. Which also plays part in here. And then you have Alopec shows up, which you find out that she was on the van, that she had snuck along with him, and Raphael gets so pissed off when he sees her because he doesn't trust her. Which again, I mean, it really plays into what happened, you know, in the earlier issue where you have like the whole micro series when she first introduced, he never got over that she tricked him.
And how could you? I mean, look at how well she played it then. You know, like he thinks, oh, she's just there to assassinate somebody.
I mean, it would make sense. He doesn't realize that, she turned against the Foot. She didn't have a choice. I mean, after you try to kill Shredder, not like you can come back with open arms. You're done.
Right. And she lost her cool the one time in Alaska, and then you saw what happened the second time. There's no coming back that second time.
Yeah, no, there's no coming back after what she did with him. He's done. He hates her. So, you kind of have to accept that. Like, yeah, we're not coming back to you. But I think that gives some good moments, though, too. Like, just seeing all the stuff that they go, seeing what they go through. And, like, Leo defends her right away. Which, again, I don't think it was Leo being the Foot or even being, manipulated from what the Foot. I think it was just Leo trying to do the right thing. That's how I took it.
As far as, like, defending her?
Yeah, he's not trying to do it because he's just like, oh, well, I mean, I think in his head, and which makes perfect sense, he sees it as the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's not a Foot thing in this case. And I mean, you can see, though, like, why somebody like Raph might be kind of, like, thrown off a bit. Like, well, these two are both coming off the Foot Clan right now. How can I trust either one of them? And then on top of that, you got anger management issues with Raph. He is the worst person to be involved in any of this.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. That's a great way to kind of look at it because he handles it wrong. I mean, it isn't until Splinter comes in and Splinter's like, okay, Alopex, you saved my life, so we'll listen to you.
In this case, I think, other than Splinter himself, the only person that's really going to be able to really like mediate any like real issues between the brothers, and they don't really show him doing it ever, but Donnie could be the only one. I mean, Mikey could do it, and he can make people get along, but he is so blind to conflict in most cases that he might not see a trap coming.
Yeah.
Whereas Donnie's smarter than that. He can figure that out and still maybe try to calm people down with some logic.
And it's nice to see because you really do see the Turtles try to work together in this, and it's not them fighting, it's them trying to come to terms with what happened to Leo and how to deal with his PTSD and how to help him. And
as Leo going through it himself. Yeah, they're all going through it.
Yeah, I mean they're all. I mean, and that's what I think is also so good is how they got so fucking beat up at the end of City Fall, like in that whole conflict, and like this is a great like part, like just so cool how it's like, okay, we're gonna we're calming down, we're just gonna we're just gonna let it go,
right? Like the Turtles suffered a lot of pain during this time, so now that they've been severely wounded, they have to sit back, run away, retreat, and kind of lick their wounds in a sense.
Yeah. And
this is what this whole arc is really based on.
And it does a good job with it. You also have, I think, Raphael makes the comment. Well, this is when because Casey calls April's girlfriend. They're like, wait, when did that happen? I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like when he's like, yeah, we're taking things slow. And Ralph, yeah, nothing says slow like meeting the parents.
Right.
I did get a kick out of that one. I'm like, okay, that's funny. True and funny. I do like Raphael in this, even though he, because everything he does makes sense. Like him losing his cool makes sense in the context of what's all happened. It isn't him just being an asshole. Like I think he's a very good character in this arc.
He is, and he's actually reacting based on what he sees in front of him. It's not like he's just being an asshole out of nowhere. Like there are some legit threats and insecurities he has about this whole situation.
Oh yeah. And it's also like this when you first meet April's parents, you have her dad, which I didn't see what they were doing, where he's in a wheelchair, he suffered a stroke, and he can't talk very well, he can't move very well, and like I didn't see where they were going to go with that at the end of this arc.
When I first read it, I didn't either, if I'm being honest about it. Like,
yeah.
And then you find out as time goes on how much he was involved with Stock Gen, what his background is. Then you can maybe start to draw a line between the two, but it doesn't jump off the page at you right away, really.
No. It just sets up like, she's worried about her dad, and this is why they're out here in Northampton to rest. And then you also have small scenes of Leo at the lake, meditating and talking to his mother and trying to figure out, what to do. You have just the other turtles just trying to, Mikey's sleeping, which I thought funny. He's just completely just passed out. And or I think it's Mikey sleeping. Yeah. Yeah. Mikey's sleeping. Donatello's reading. And then you have Raphael just sitting there upset. So. And then in the last page is you see Alopex looking at Leo just meditating, which comes to play very quickly in the next issue.
Yeah, it kicks things off right away.
And as I forgot to say at the top of the episode, this is issue 29 we're starting at. It doesn't really matter, but yeah.
Let's not forget that Leo here is dealing with visions of his mom and whatnot too. So this is pretty much his whole healing process. As much as his brothers and his dad want to help out,
It's
they
the
almost
mother.
don't do any. They don't do anything at all. Nothing gets through to him, at least in the physical realm here. It's all this astral projection kind of otherworldly deal with his mom that really gets him through it. And, throughout it, they also have you question that too. Like, is he dreaming? Is he just kind of seeing this in his head?
I
Or
thought
is this
when
real?
we first saw that he was dreaming. At this point, I am 99% positive that is not a dream. That she is somehow alive, or I mean, not alive, but her spirit is able to communicate with them. Like, that's her. That's what I
think it's evident as we go on, and you see Splinter's interaction with that situation. That it's like, okay, I think that's something that actually happened.
Yeah, that's been my complete take on it at this point. And again, as everything with this, I'm very curious to see more where this show goes, or comic.
Yeah.
It feels like a show. It's okay.
Time. Yeah, right. I mean, it's better writing than some shows, to be honest. But there's more moments with the mom in the future too, and not just with Leo. So that's something that you can look forward to.
Okay, the more we read, the more I get excited for what comes. Like, I can't wait to get to issue 50 and I can read that arc. So
yeah, they don't really drop the ball at this point in the series. I mean, you get some of the side stuff that's like not necessarily skippable, but just kind of throw away in a little bit. But yeah, as far as the main series go, they don't really drop the ball much.
No, and even speaking of side stories, the next issue we're going to talk about is Utrom Empire #1. I don't consider this throwaway or like optional. This to me is something I think you have to read as part of the main arc.
I'd agree. I think it's rather important to go through. I mean, just the origin of the Triceratons and stuff like that. I mean, Fugitoid, what he's up to, I think it's definitely worth reading and adding to his main story.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you'd be missing out if I didn't read this. Like, if we didn't read Secret History of the Foot, so many things in Cityfall wouldn't make any sense.
And that's some of the best like side series or story in the entire arc, or in the entire series to begin with.
Yeah,
you'd be missing some of the best stuff ever.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. This show, I keep saying that, this comic doesn't hold back. It really doesn't, and it does some good stuff. Like the opening of this issue, Utrom Empire 1, you have Fugitoid, which you haven't seen for a little bit, standing on a cliff, and then he just jumps off a cliff because he's like, I don't want Krang to be able to use my knowledge, so I'm just going to kill myself.
Yep, and you got to think too, like, what would drive Fugitoid to this point? I mean, he doesn't have a family anymore. He has nobody or nothing to live for anyway. So why not? When Earth's survival kind of depends on him not being here.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting, like, where this goes. Like, to start off with his suicide, and then you slowly have it where they're trying, right after the panel right next to him committing suicide is him back in the lab being worked on, and all these cords are in him. So, like, his plan was in vain. Yeah. And I did get a kick out of, like, there's these scientists talking like, oh yeah, we we're weatherproofing it. Yeah, Stockman's in charge of that. He'll take care of it. You see Stockman cutting wires.
Yep. So Stockman finally, as we've seen in some of the past issues, he doesn't want to be some pet or familiar for Krang at the end of the day. And you got to think too, like, once the Earth is terraformed by the what do you call
Krang. The Technodrome.
No, there you go. I couldn't think of the name. Technodrome. Once it's terraformed by the Technodrome, where does Stockman really fit in? He's a very logical guy. He's one of the smartest people in the entire comic. So he's going to look out for #1. He's got to sabotage this guy, even though he could take advantage of it when it's over. But he's got to sabotage it in order to survive.
He realizes he won't be alive.
Chances are Krang is going to dispose of him just like every other human at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Krang's up to.
And Krang is so ruthless, as we've seen, that there's no question about it.
And I was surprised how much this arc shows it. And it made me, again, like, I don't give a shit about Krang before this. And the more I read Krang comics, I'm like, fucking A, you're making me care about Krang. Like, I did not expect this. Like, you're making me like the character. I mean, he's not not in the way that he's I'm rooting for him. Like, it's just, I enjoy reading about him. Like, ooh, I can't wait to see what, crap's going to happen next. Like,
he is an interesting villain for sure.
Yeah, and this issue also, or this little story arc, or miniseries, the correct term, does a good job of also making you learn more about him. Like, the next page you see is you have prehistoric Earth, and you see the Utroms going to Earth and getting DNA from Triceratops, which I did not realize this, but they made the Triceratops in this world. Not Triceratops, but I mean, like, what the hell do they call the alien ones? So,
Triceratons.
Yeah, they made them, and I don't know if that's something new or that was an old. If this was something from the original comic.
I don't think that was something that existed in any other iteration.
Okay. I really got a kick out of that. Like that was really cool. And then it cuts back to many years later. But even in the prehistoric thing, one of the people they mention is Quainon, which is Krang's father, was alive during the prehistoric era and is still alive in modern day. Like I thought that was an interesting thing too, to show that Utroms can live forever.
Yeah, Utroms seemingly have very, very long existence.
Unless you kill them.
Right. I mean, at this point, we've never really seen them die of like natural or old age.
No, they just
anytime they die is because they can't breathe Earth's atmosphere or they get smashed by something. That's it.
And just seeing like when you see Utrom and like you've seen you see the Triceraton for the first time. They don't say that they made the Triceratons, but you can pretty much put two and two together. That's what they did. And you have a small scene where Quainon's like, the war is over. And then you have, I'm assuming this was like Neutrino saying but the rebellion has begun.
Right. Well, you got to think too, like, I don't know who said the war was over, but Quainon doesn't want any war to be over ever. And that's kind of the dilemma that we see Krang have, even though Krang is a very ruthless dictator and a warlord, he does not want to see a war continue like his dad does. Because what does Quainon want? Quainon wants recognition. He wants to leave this legacy that'll last generations after he's gone and all this power while he's still alive. Krang doesn't care about that. As long as his people are good, that's all he cares about at the end of the day.
It's much different. Oh, and it isn't war over, but Krang says, in short, the Utrom Empire is at peace. And that's when then they say, we're going to start a war. Or that's when the rebellion starts. And like, you also get a few like kind of cute scenes. Like you have Utroms having a picnic. Like a little scene of that, like it's making you learn more about them, and this arc really does a good job of showing you like what happened to them.
One thing I get from all this is that I see a lot of parallels between this and Star Wars. I can't be the only one.
No, I don't. You're not alone. It's that same type of story, though. I mean, they're both probably inspired from the same type of thing.
I'm sure this is inspired a lot by Star Wars. Either way, it doesn't matter. It still works for me.
Same. I mean, it's so good. I was honestly pretty impressed with how much I was enjoying this. So
you also see the other Utroms, like in the council or whatever you want to call that disagree with Quainon's lead and where he's going with everything. And even though Krang agrees with the council, he still ends up arguing with people on the council with the respect for his father and the way they speak to him.
Because he's still, stuck in that type of thinking too. He can't see it for what it is either. He doesn't. I don't think he really, at this point, he doesn't really see that his father is, full of shit.
Yeah, he's probably at this point has some ideas about it, but as far as like just how far his father's willing to go and continue a war until the day he dies, he doesn't maybe know that just as of yet.
Yeah. And this is where you see, I do like the part Stockman's sitting there reading a book and all of a sudden the lights go out and Stockman just has the biggest smile on his face.
Mm-hmm.
Because his whole plan was, I think, was he going to kill? No, he was going to try to revive the Fugitoid to get him to help him stop.
Well, his plan is, and they'll say it in, I think, this issue or the third or the later one, is that he wants to use Fugitoid to help kill all the Utroms and then blame it on him at the end.
Okay, that's what it was. Oh, yeah, because Stockman's just bad to begin with.
And that's something that I want to cover, too, when we get there, is that Fugitoid actually analyzes Stockman's behavior, and he says, literally, I thought he was amoral, but no, he's just really a bad person.
He's a great villain.
Baxter is one of the best. I mean, they have good villains in general. I mean, when you really think about it, top three villains, you'll see more later, and they're actually probably on a bigger scale than the three that we're used to right now, but the top three villains, and they do very well job with them, Baxter, Shredder, Krang, none of them really have any character development flaws for the most part.
Okay. Do I ever get my Wingnut in this?
You know what? I think it might show up.
I like Wingnut.
If it does, it's very brief.
Okay. I'm just curious because I was thinking of a random ass characters. I'm like, I wouldn't mind Wingnut.
If it does, because I can kind of see it. If it does, it's much later though.
That's fine. I'm okay with having many comics to read with this series because And then this cuts back and forth a lot in the past. But it goes back to when the rebellion was happening and the Triceratons are rebelling against the Utroms, and you just see them murdering Utroms, and the one that was like Krang's like bodyguard type thing is one of the leaders of this rebellion. And
That dog.
he almost beats Krang. I mean, he pretty much, he does beat Krang when he fights him.
He could have killed him right there, and he could have saved a lot of pain for a lot of races and a lot of people.
Yes, but he doesn't.
He wanted him to survive, to do better than his father did, and it didn't really pan out. Krang might have like cared about his people to the end, but as far as his impact on multiple dimensions and universes, no.
Yeah, no, 100%. He wasn't what he should have been.
So Zog kind of messed up. I mean, and then you could see they kind of blindsided the Utroms, or like Zog sitting there in his office, his main general, or his main commander or whatever, and Krang's like, all right, call all the Triceratons, get them ready for war, to fight. And Zog's like, look again, those are Triceratons killing your people.
Yeah, he did not see that coming.
Not at all. So, I mean, the rebellion plan in this instance worked, and it would have worked even better if Zog would have pulled the damn trigger.
Yeah, but I get it. Like, he was kind of like his friend in a way, too, so he didn't want to just murder him, even though he really, really should have.
Well, you got to think, too, is that Zog is, like, when you're in a rebellion, you don't want to be like the people you're booting out, in most cases.
No.
So, and he tried to reflect that. Was it a mistake? Yeah.
I mean, history proves it too, but yes. That's happened many times.
Yeah.
You have to have a rebellion really work, though, you need to kill almost everybody that was in charge before you.
And make sure you don't repeat the same mistakes.
Yeah, or depending on, like in the way of Castro, you just promised a revolution, you didn't promise anything else. You gave him a revolution, you didn't promise it to be better, you just said it'd be a revolution. So that's one of the jokes.
And that's exactly what I think about. When I saw the Triceratons do what they did, have this coup, that's pretty much what it is. Like, all I could think of is Cuba at that point.
I was watching a documentary, and they had the brother-in-law of Fidel Castro, and one of the things he says, he's like, they promised a revolution, they gave a revolution, they didn't promise anything else. And he's like, they did what they promised.
That is hilarious.
So, I mean, he's like, he didn't promise to be better, he just said it'd be a revolution. So, that's what I thought.
He lied,
Yeah, they weren't wrong. And then you have one thing about this arc. Also, you have very small scenes in each issue of Utron Empire where it connects to what Donnie's doing, which is going to play a big part in one of the other arcs. I'm assuming that I can see is coming up, where you have him find the notebook of Chet or Fugitoid, and he's finding out more about the Technodrome, and he's preparing.
You got to think too is that Donnie, and it makes sense, is the only person that's really even considering the Technodrome and the bigger threat looming in the background, the bigger picture. Donnie is a bigger picture individual.
Yes.
So he's trying to use his time wisely, not only mending to his broken father, trying to help his brothers the best he can, but he's sitting here trying to take care of essentially the world at this point. And also it's Northampton, Massachusetts, not New Jersey.
They're close enough. Hey, we're from the Midwest. What do we know?
Exactly.
I've never been to the New York area yet, but I want to go. I also want to go to New Jersey, because New Jersey is one of the states you can't pump your own gas. So when you go there, they actually have to come out and pump the gas for you. And I kind of want to see that now.
Oh, that's funny. I bet you got to tip people, though.
Yeah. I didn't say I was going to stay at New Jersey long. I just want to go there and get my gas and leave. Like, okay, cool. I saw New Jersey. I don't think there's that much there to see. So
I didn't know you couldn't pump your own gas. Yeah,
it's against the law in New Jersey. I only know that because one of the guys on the show quite often used to be in New York. So it came up on one of our movie episodes. So yeah, that's how I know.
Interesting.
Actually came up, I think, Back to the Future episode. So yeah.
I mean, I hate pumping my own gas, so that
I don't
could work out great.
I don't want to talk to people, so hey, I don't like the idea of having to talk to somebody or have them do it. I'd rather just do it myself and get out of there.
At least it doesn't take long.
All right, and then we go back to Northampton, issue 30. And this one starts off. Oh no, I forgot to say something. In the end of the Utron Empire episode issue, you have. I am off today. You have Stockman is draining the ooze from the Utron because he's like, I want to hurt Krang so I can confuse him and make him fail. And Fugitoid, I think, knocks him out and sees that if you do this, you won't make him lose focus. You'll make him worse.
Right. He's still gonna probably go through with his plan to terraform, just kill everybody. Anyway, what does he have left?
He'll just kill everyone. Then he won't need to bother with it. He'll just like, fuck it, we'll just murder everybody.
And also the cover for this looks, for the next one, I think it's number 2.
Yes.
Looks very like Predator-esque.
It's so good. It is. It's orange Triceraton standing on top of a bunch of Utroms holding an Utrom.
And that's a nice throwback to callback to the original design of an orange Triceraton.
Are they not orange in this at all?
I don't think so. And if they are, I think it's just a different skin shade. You see more
Okay.
gray than anything.
Gray honestly makes more sense.
It does. I mean, the Triceratons, by the way, they last for quite some time in the story arc. Even where I am now, and I haven't been keeping up as much, but even where I'm at now, they're still active.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that like early on, I think when you did one of the other two arcs. So I was surprised to hear that they're still around.
Yeah, I did not anticipate that whatsoever.
So I look forward to it. I did not like them in the what I read of the Mirage. So I'm excited to see what this does differently to make me see if I care.
You will. No, you'll care a lot more. Dynamic between, let's say, Utrons and Triceratons as time goes on. Kind of an interesting struggle there.
Okay. I look forward to it. Well, right, and that brings us to the other back to Northampton. And then you have Mikey who's writing a letter to Woody, and that's how it starts off. And I like this where you can't figure out how he wants to it, and it's just kind of recapping like or not really recapping, but it's a way of telling the audience what's happening, but doing it in the form of like it's really cool.
I like it. I actually, this is probably one of the better issues out of the arc for me, and that's one of the reasons why.
Yeah, because this arc isn't. It's a different arc. Because I don't want to insult it, but it's not the same. And you have Raphael arguing with Alopec because he thinks she was going to kill Leo, and she's like, I was just going to thank him for saving me. Like, because Raphael makes a lot of mistakes in this.
He does, and it's all because of his emotional immaturity. I mean, his intentions are right, and what if he was right? And you got to think about that. What if he was correct? He's just really watching out for people before things happen. He just happens to be wrong.
And in this arc, you see how hard it is for Donnie not to have books, computers, and to be in a place with no link to the outside world. And I would be the same type of guy. I'd be like, I don't like this.
I think most people would now.
Yes.
Anyway.
Not in the time when this stuff was first written in the 80s and 90s, no. But yeah, now, yes. But I just thought about that. I was like, yeah, I'd be the same way. I would be Donnie. I'd be like, no, I need to do stuff.
And you get to see here for the first time, I think this is the first time, and maybe only time, they show Shredder kind of reeling and being unfocused, not even listening to Donnie as he rants about the Technodrome.
Yeah, because they're not as worried about the Technodrome because
as much as they should be.
Yeah, because it feels to them more of an outside threat and not something that's about to happen. It feels more like it's farther away. It's not like Shredder was a constant in your face trying to kill you. The Technodrome it's going to kill you, but it's a little, it's down the road. It's coming.
You got to think, you can't really heal as effectively if you're sitting here worried about the next biggest threat. So, I mean, they're worried about just healing from all the pain, physical and emotional pain that they just endured. And the Technodrome, like, what are you talking about? It's not something I can even fathom right now.
And we actually won't even cover the Technodrome for it to be the fourth episode that we do next. There's still 2 arcs and then some other stuff that before that. Like, there's still some time coming up. But yeah, I look forward to it. All right. And then you have, speaking of Star Wars references, they have one right in this issue where Leo is kind of like meditating or whatever he is, but he's like going through in his dream like a cave and he's fighting like different villains like a Shredder and some other stuff you see in there made out of the woods, which reminds me of Luke in the second movie when in Empire Strikes Back when he's fighting Vader. That's not really Vader.
Right.
It's a I feel like it's got to be a reference to that.
I think so. I think this whole arc is not based on it, but inspired in a way. Yeah.
And this is when Leo talks to his mother, and I think that's what really like brings him back. Starts to. She starts to kind of connect and be like, you need to, go to your family. Like, they're your family. You can trust them. And that's when it starts to happen. It's because of her.
Yep.
And she makes a comment. She's like, I'm needed elsewhere. And she goes to go see Splinter. I don't remember if it's this issue or next issue, but that's where she's headed.
And Leo finally responds positively to someone. And he has an actual kind of smile on his face because he's taken that first step towards healing.
It was nice to see. It made me feel good when I read it. I'm like, I'm glad he's starting to kind of, you're the character I'm rooting for is starting to kind of come back. He's recovering from the trauma.
Yeah, the darkness is starting to clear up a bit. And it's the last time I want to say he sees some of these nightmares.
Which is, it's just really good. And then you have April and Casey are with her parent. I think this is when she talks about like what he was doing at StockGen. I think she mentions about the ooze and stuff or a little bit. Or there's comments about it, what he was working on. It was very hush-hush.
Yeah, and then she says, like, hey, we didn't tell you because you were young. So, again, you got to think, like, how long has Baxter known about this ooze or mutagen?
A while.
How long has he really been working on this? And who's been affected by it up until this point? I mean, this has been looming in the background in her family. She's almost destined to be in the position she's currently in.
I mean, the idea is that I think Stockman's been working. I think like Krang has been on that island for a long time.
Well, they did say he's been there since maybe like, well, I don't know, 70s, 80s or something.
Yeah, so he's been there like 40, 50 years at this point. He's been there for a long time.
Well, you gotta somehow secretively build a gigantic world-ending terraforming machine. I guess it's going to take quite some time.
I mean, I'm guessing the machine's underground, but yeah, it will take a while.
Right, but then you got to get the people to build it and somehow not let that information slip out. It's a lot to it.
It's called enslave them and then murder them. That usually does the trick. That's what history's done. When they want something done and don't want people talking about it. So the Nazis did stuff like that too. They'd have you work. Okay, if you work, we'll free you. Then they shoot them.
Yep.
They couldn't talk. Yeah, doesn't work out well usually for people that do that, but that's what history has done. So, and you have the mother visit Splinter in his dreams, and that's such a strong scene where he's like, "Don't look at me. I'm disgusting." She's like, "I don't care." I don't see that. Like, I thought that was really cool. And then the shame of him being a rat now, and she, still loved him for who he was. Plus, she's a ghost, so.
Right. So not only is Splinter bonding with his long lost wife, but then you have the brothers bonding also at the same time, yet again, and repairing all these damaged bridges. And
you have a small scene where a good, powerful scene, where they all sit at the campfire, and then they invite Alopex to come too. Mikey does, and she have a hot dog. And they all just.
So I think this is important here. I think it's as innocent as the moment is, and almost like forgettable or throwaway. It's actually pretty important, because if you think about people's personalities in real life, there are certain individuals that tend to bring people together, and Mikey is that guy. And as simple as his idea was,
I believe that
worked just like he wanted it to.
I believe Mikeys and Michaels and Mikes are good at doing that.
Oh, you don't.
I'm speaking from first of all. I feel like I brought a lot of people together. I mean, I brought you, Rob, and Brad together.
No.
I mean, I've done it before work. I do it with this podcast all the time. Like, I have gotten people that have met me, then have started their own podcast, and then work with people that I've have talked with, and like build those. So I can relate to that.
I mean, I guess podcasting in itself is a way to bring people together too. So
yeah, I mean, people listen to me talk, so hey. And I feel like it has. Because I get, with all the way that I do this with so many different guests and everything, it's brought a lot of people together. They're just my pat on my back to myself moment. So, but to go on with that, I have this strange thing. Anytime you have a campfire scene where you have your cast just, chilling at a campfire, some of the best scenes ever, right?
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with that, so.
Exactly.
Oh, I mean, that's just what I thought of. Like, it didn't click when we were talking. I was looking at it. I looked up at my canvas of Chrono Trigger. I'm like, yep, fucking campfires. They're just great.
Yeah, they're memorable, man. And you got to think too, though. Like, there was a campfire scene in the movie.
I don't remember the movie as well. I need to watch it again.
So the '90s movie is that when Splinter was missing and they were in Northampton, they all went around the fire and they do that. I thought they threw some shit in it. Or maybe they just meditated.
I think one of them they do throw shit in it, but it might be the first. I think it's the first one.
It is the first movie for sure.
Yeah.
And then you see Shredder's astral projection, and they have that really heartfelt moment where they actually start crying, and they got that music in the background. Really touching damn scene.
And it's a good thing they didn't put the theme song in this part instead.
I wish they did put the damn song. I should have played it.
Power.
Oh, not that one.
You hear that playing in the background. Like, I can't do the rap, but that song is still good, by the way.
Oh, I still listen to it.
I was listening to it recently because someone had did an episode on that movie, and I was like, I had to listen to the whole Turtle Rap song, and then I had to listen to Ninja Rap. Dude, Ninja Rap is nowhere near as good, but that Turtle Rap song, that's a good fucking song.
It is good, yeah.
It recounts the whole movie, but hey, it's still.
And they call Raphael the leader, which is still wrong.
Very untrue, but no, you're right. It's just such a good scene. I mean, that's a good scene too. I mean, it's something that you need, where you need, just like in Chrono Trigger, they need their moment to just connect and just relax with everything that's going on mentally.
I think that's, again, a reflection on real life that we all go through. You got, again, Mike is the type of person that brings people together, but then you also have those moments where people actually sit and they connect on a deeper level. This is their moment to do that after all the craziness and last second thinking. Now's the time to actually process it.
And then the issue.
And then you got Koya sitting here scoping them out.
Yeah, and it was in City Fall you mentioned because they have that bird and they call it by name, and I didn't think anything about it. You're like, yeah, you might want to remember that.
Yep, I wanted you to put it together.
I did not expect that the next arc she'd be there.
Mm-hmm.
She's badass looking. The last page is just a panel of her, just looking badass.
Koya is pretty cool, and here's another thing: she will actually be around for quite some time.
My guess from what we have seen so far is that she's going to join the whatever Hobbs is up to.
You'll see.
That's my guess. Just my hypothesis I'm going to throw out there. But I look forward to seeing it again. As I've said many times, I can't wait to see where all this goes.
Well, and I was thinking about this earlier today. Like, not many characters are really throwaway in this at all. Like everybody has. God, yes. But that's good. That's a pretty good track record if you think about it.
Yeah, no, it really is. Like I can't believe how much stuff in this comic series pays off and comes back and stays relevant. Like what they do is impressive. And
in most cases, pretty meaningful way.
Yeah, and even like the mini stories are really good. Like all the micro series, like one-offs. I mean, those are all parts. You have to read. I feel to get the full TMT experience. Like I'm constantly telling people, read the freaking IDW books. Like read them. If you like Turtles, read this crap. Like you're missing out.
Yeah, anybody that's a true Turtles fan, if you're not reading this stuff, man, you are missing out. This is it here. This is probably the best thing we have as Turtle fans right now.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't watched any of the movies or the new series, but I am enjoying the comic.
Well, those are more for like 10-year-olds or below. So I mean, it's not going to have the same effect.
No, I'll get to them eventually. I think we talked about it before, but I think Turtles is on Paramount, isn't it? I think
It is.
I have Paramount Plus now. Ooh, I might have to watch that 2003 series.
Yeah, it's the full one's on there.
Damn it. I might have to do that. Okay. And then we go back to Utron Empire #2, and you kind of see where the Fugitoid sees that the ooze is all running out, the Utroms are going to die. So he comes to Krang to enlist Krang's help while he puts Baxter in a closet because he's trying to get Krang to help him save them. And then again, it jumps back to kind of showing you more of the war with Krang and where Krang was on the front line. He comes back to visit his father, and his father has captured the rebel leader and is going to execute him. And he's also imprisoned the ruling council. So all the people that were telling him like, hey, you can't do this, he locked them all up. And from the way it looks, they've been in prison for like I'm guessing like 13 years based on the fact that they have little marks.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a good scene because again, it fits like what they're trying to tell you. They're trying to tell you this is a dictatorship. This is a terrible government. They even have a panel of a parade with a tank and people marching, which again feels like a reference to what Soviet did during the Cold War. So, and what North Korea does quite often when they broadcast that, but the same idea. I thought it's good. And this is when you see Izog escapes from the Utrom and he, just murdering them. Because Utrom are really not that powerful, and they're not in like a mech body. They're just little brains.
I mean, when you're considering a giant ass dinosaur coming through, you don't really have much of a chance when you're a little brain with tentacles.
I mean, they got guns, but it doesn't seem to affect them much.
Yeah, they rely heavily on technology. The only Utrom that's shown any different was Krang out in the damn jungle.
Yeah.
Doing what he does with no like primitive technology. Like Krang is that's why he got as far as he did. Most Utroms can't do that.
No, most of them are much weaker creatures. And then you have the way Izog escapes is he grabs Krang, puts a gun to his head essentially, and says, if you want Krang to survive, you need to, get me a ride and get me out of here.
And something to bring up here is that Krang is willing to die for his people. That's how much he cares for his people. He's like, just blow him away and take me with, because now is the time to really stop this rebellion.
Yeah.
Again, the second time, Zog could have killed this guy. It didn't happen.
Well, in this case, if he would have killed him, they would have killed him. So, but yes.
Right. But,
he should have just killed him in the first place, just ended it. Been done with Krang. Would have saved a lot of lives, but...
Would have saved a ton of lives, because what would have happened? It's very possible. Quaynon would have died eventually, and then the rest of the Utroms would have died off with him.
Yeah, the race would have been done.
Unless you had somebody like Shrell over there. Well, that's another story.
And then it cuts back to current time where you see Krang in his mech body goes outside and has to get the power going, but he's going to take a massive electric charge, but his body can handle it. And at the same time...
He does. What
he doesn't know if he can
but
handle it or
when
not.
you do, it'll cause a massive electric. Yeah, oh, all right. So Fugitoid is about to warn him what that's going to do to him, but then Fugitoid clearly has some issues he's got to handle in
Yeah,
person.
Stockman shows up with his fly droids again. I'm assuming these fly droids are going to play a part in the regular series coming up here too.
They do. It's
Okay.
nothing like too major, but they have a role. Yeah,
I figure when you get to attack the Technodrome, they'll just be there. Is what I'm assuming.
quite possibly. I mean, I think in the city they have more of a use, but I guess we'll see when we get there because I don't fully remember.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, this came out a long time ago. I mean, this came out almost 10 years ago, so or around there. It's not. These are not new comics.
Not
I'm
by
just
any means, no.
way behind on the series. So, and this is, you have the Fugitoid and Stockman are fighting, and then he kills the fly droid. I think this is, and then he just leaves Stockman and goes back to Krang because he's trying to help Krang do this. He's trying to help Krang save the Utrom. So essentially just to save the human race too, because he knows that if Krang does that, the human race is done for.
And
if all the
here's
Utrom kill
Donnie.
him, nothing to live for.
Yep.
He'll just kill everybody.
And here's Donnie distracting people with his damn Technodrome that they can't wrap their head around.
And yeah, it's just 2 pages of it of him complaining about it. They're like, yeah, that's nice. We got to train.
Yeah, we're busy right now.
I mean, again, it makes sense. I mean, they're worried about the current threat where he's more of a forward thinker and he's thinking of the future threat.
Well, and if you really look into this more, he's bringing it up to these people that I'm sure are mildly concerned about it, but they have no answers for him. He has nobody to bounce off his hypothetical ideas off of. It's purely going to be just him at the end of the day figuring this all out. But as he says right here, one step at a time.
Yeah, and that is hard. I mean, that's hard even in general when you have ideas that you're thinking of and you have no one to bounce them off of but yourself. Like, it's hard.
Yeah. Big life. I mean, yeah, think like this is the equivalent of one of the biggest life decisions Donnie has to make. And there's a lot of consequences to those decisions. So, I mean, that's same with us. If we got a big financial decision coming or health decision, I mean, same thing for us.
Yeah. It's all well done. And then the last thing you see is Krang gets shocked from the electrical thing and just laying on the ground. Spoiler, he survives.
For anybody wondering.
And then this brings us to the last 2 Northampton issues, issue 31, which does have a cool cover of Leo meditating.
You did miss out on some more of the story here.
Oh, what did I miss? Sorry.
Zog escaping.
Oh, where he escapes and then Krang is in the hospital bed.
Quite a bit of pages here to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not missing too much. I mean, Zog escapes. Krang gets pissed at his father for. And this is actually the moment. This is maybe a kind of an important moment where Krang is in the hospital room and he's like, "Why the hell didn't you just shoot?" And then Quainan pretty much admits that, "Oh, I don't want the rebellion to stop because then I don't have a war. I got to create a new war." He's like, "I already have one." And Krang's like, nah, he finally is starting to get it.
He's like, what the hell? Like, what's wrong with you?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot wrong with him, with Quainan. So, I mean, but again, true of all dictators. Most dictators have those issues. They have to have, because in order to keep power, you need to have a reason of something that you're fighting to keep your people fighting for. Otherwise, it just won't work.
Right.
I mean, that's a real thing that happens throughout history all the time. Like,
you have to
need conflict.
To think too. You have to wonder, like, well, if Krang didn't have to face the practical genocide of his own people, what kind of ruler would he have been if his father would have stepped down or died or something, or been assassinated? Like, what would Krang have done, being that they're at a time of peace now? Would he have just been a good ruler? I mean, that's something we'll never know.
I don't think so.
It's very possible he wouldn't, but you got to think his people's best interests were his interests.
Yeah.
So maybe he would have hired advisors and people that could have, helped him rule these people in the way that he cared for them. Because, I mean, that is one undeniable fact is even though he's one of the most ruthless dictators in this entire, well, he is the most ruthless dictator in the entire comic, he cares enough about his people to want to see them prosper, because look at all the picnics and peace they were having,
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. And I think that's a good take too on it. To kind of just see what type of, like, just to see what he wanted to be.
Right, and he was enough of a warlord to where if another race or threat came amongst his people, he would have been ready and willing to do something about it. But he wasn't actively looking for conflict at the end of the day.
he wasn't in the mindset where you need conflict to stay in power, which is what all dictators do in history. But it makes him a better character too.
It kind of rounds him out. I mean, when you really think about that, that's maybe the only redeeming personality trait he's had, that he cares about them so much. If things were different, if circumstances would have been different, maybe he would have been a great leader to them.
Yeah, he wouldn't have, went to war like he did because he's trying to find a planet to cultivate for his people.
Right.
And then with the Northampton, on the cover you have Leo sitting on a rock holding the sword and Splinter looking at him, and it's got the blue bandana wrapped around the sword, because all this time he has not put the blue bandana back on yet. Not yet.
No, and Splinter hasn't even given it to him yet.
Yeah, he just kept it.
I actually like this cover a lot. Like, I can almost feel the wind. It's like a very ethereal painting in a sense.
Some of these covers are really good. Again, I regret that I wasn't just buying this as it came out every month. But it would have been so many comics I would have had.
It's very good.
I wish I bought the trades of this. I still want to every so often, but that hasn't happened yet. But I think about, like, wouldn't it be? Yeah, these got to be just so cool to have. They're just such good books. All right, and then this issue starts off with, you have Donnie and Casey Jones working on a motorcycle, which again reminded me of the movie where they're working on the truck, and the same idea.
Definitely a throwback to that. I mean, this happened in Mirage too.
God, I don't remember. I've read very little Mirage.
Good.
I just can't.
I mean, for the time, it was probably amazing, but as we evolved into appreciating not only better art but better storytelling, that it doesn't hold up.
Yeah, I can't do it, and I feel I want to appreciate it. Like, it's not for me, and I can't change that.
And that's all right. I mean, for me, like, as big of a Turtle fan as I am, I still have it marked off where I left off on Mirage. I haven't updated that in probably over 6 plus 8, maybe 8 years.
I mean, to be fair, you have this. You don't need Mirage.
No,
I don't like saying that, but that's how I feel.
No, I feel like this is way more definitive. I feel like this is way more enjoyable. It's way more streamlined, and it makes sense. And some of that old Mirage stuff you can't even find. Like, it's really hard to find some of that stuff.
That's what the internet's for.
Well, I know. I use the internet to find them, but it's
yeah, no, they're not like that. They're even on the internet. The places that I go sailing to, it's not the easiest. So no, I agree. And then you have Raphael and Alopex like training together, which is it makes me sad to see what happened. Like, when they're just kind of like play fighting, and then she's on top of him. It looks, it was a cool scene, and I was like, man, I really like. It made me sad where things go with this, because it's like, I thought at this point maybe she's gonna be part of the team, like she's gonna be with them for a little bit. Nope.
The only thing I'll say to you is that Alopex, like Koya, even to the point I am now, they still exist.
Okay.
So they have some very, very stretched out longevity.
That's good, because I like Alopex has grown on me. I didn't like her, but I like her now in this arc. Like, I like her trying to come to terms with what happened with Shredder, with the murder of her family, and her being different. And I really like that a lot. And I look forward to seeing where it goes. One
thing that this series does well is they make you care and accept other mutants than just the Turtles. I mean, and the other mutants, for the most part, are not throwaways. I mean, even Slash, as you'll see how much of a role he plays later, and how much you're going to care at that time. That'll let you know right there just how well they write some of these other off mutants.
And that makes me happy. It makes me happy that they really, like, again, there aren't really throwaway characters in this, and that's an interesting concept at times. Like, it's a simple one, but it's like almost everything in here has a reason.
Well, they tried to do everything. Everything they did was done with a lot of care, and it reflects in every storyline that we end up coming across.
Yeah. And then you have, in this issue, after you have Leo kind of coming to terms with himself, and he's thinking about when Shredder cut off that guy's head. I can't even remember who it was now, and I don't even remember the name of the French losers.
Sabate.
Yes, I couldn't think of it. I was like, I wiped it from my brain. It was so insignificant and irritated me. But
fake French ninjas.
They were fake. They sucked. They just died, and I really thought they had more of a purpose than just to be fodder. So I will keep complaining about that forever at this point, I think, until I just get past it. But so you have him training or kind of doing this and Splinter comes up to him, and this is when Splinter gives him the sword with the blue bandana. Or no, just gives him the blue bandana. And it's such a touching moment too. Like, this is, after everything has happened, he hasn't had it. and Splinter's just been holding on to it, waiting for the right moment. I just think that makes Splinter a great character. He's really
Agreed.
a great father, at times. Not all the time, but at times. This is one of those times.
You don't see a lot of flaws in Splinter's logic. I mean, something that comes up in this arc is that he admits to them about his involvement with Stockton blowing up, but realistically, throughout that time, that's maybe one of his only mistakes is really getting involved with something like that. And that's only because he felt he didn't have a choice.
Yeah, he really didn't. He needed their help, and that was the only way to get it.
So, as questionable as that might be, I mean, he really doesn't exhibit a lot of flaws. There is an arc that comes up later that's you're not going to be expecting that has a lot to do with Splinter and his relationship with his sons, and then you get to pick apart maybe something that or some things that you might feel are some of his mistakes, but you'll see as when we get to that point.
Okay, I'm definitely excited to see where things go. So I really I can't believe how much I'm on board. And you have them, they're working on the bike, and then you see April shows up with a new haircut where she cut her hair short. I like it. I like the reasoning of it. I don't think that's completely said in here, but it's very much, I feel like, the character changing and growing with the things that have happened to them. And that's kind of how I take it.
I don't hate it. I think maybe it's a little premature for me, but then at the same time, if they're gonna have this kind of like change for her, maybe this is the right moment where everything's calmed down and she can actually have the time and mind state to do it. For me, I felt it should have been maybe after her dad started walking and she found out everything about Stockton.
Okay.
It would have made maybe a little more sense for me, but it's fine the way they've done it.
Yeah, it does. It isn't. I liked it for what it was in general. I was like, okay, this is cool, and it fits the character too. And April in this is just so good. And this is also when she's trying to come to terms with herself. Like, should I give the medicine, to my dad, or should I give it to Casey and Splinter? And Casey's like, we're warriors. Me and Splinter, like, we're used to getting our ass beat, and we pick ourselves back up. He's like,
so I like all of that. I like. There's a couple things that I want to say about this part here, and that's April is conflicted with. Should she be selfish and just give it to her dad like she wants to, or should she help those in need that might make more of a difference in the immediate future?
And it not be as personal.
Right. And she's conflicted with that because of how good of a person she is morally. And then you have Casey here. I feel like being I don't know how to really say this in a good way, but like Casey is playing the male role in a relationship well, I feel. Sometimes you might have to give your partner direction and just put it out there for them. Like, look, you're overthinking everything. This is really what it is. What does this mean to you? That's your answer. Yeah. And I think they did some good writing with him in this case.
I will agree. It is definitely good writing. And it does, it makes him a good character too.
Because what is Casey? Casey comes from a very traumatic childhood, traumatic upbringing. Casey is not the type of guy that wants to sit there and BS about things. If you feel something and you feel that it's right, sometimes you got to go with that feeling instead of overthinking every aspect of it.
I wouldn't know anything about that. No, it's a cool moment. And again, their relationship feels so real too in this comic and justified. And I like it. And Casey Jones is not one of my favorite characters in Turtles, but this comic has made me like him a lot more.
So there is something when it comes to relationships in IDW Turtles, there are a lot of them. And you might not have come across many of them yet, but as time goes on, especially when they change writers way later, there's a lot of forced relationships. What you see here with April and Casey is some of the most genuine relationship writing that you will see throughout the series. So enjoy it while you can, and then go ahead and use this as the pinnacle of some of those relationships and base all the other ones amongst this, and you'll see the difference.
Okay. I know like it's 100 something when things change, and I think that's when I might have to fall off, but we'll see.
You'll see when you get there, I guess.
We're getting there. All right. And then you have, this is when you have the Turtles Raphael, Michelangelo, Donatello, Splinter, and Alopex are in the barn eating sandwiches, it looks like, and they're just talking. And it's during this peaceful time when you have, what the hell is the name of that bird? Alopex?
Quail.
Or Quail. What the hell? Oh, yeah. I'm freaking combining my names here. The Aquia burst through the roof with a bunch of foot assassins, which look like, hey, these are So they look like foot ninjas, but they have giant claws on their hands and red masks, and they just look really fucking weird and bird-like.
They look like something out of The Bouncer.
So where's Mugetsu?
I was waiting because he likes blasting through rooftops too. So
he does. I think fucking The Bouncer. You know, I haven't thought about the game since I covered on the show, but now you made me think about it. Thank you.
Glad I could help you out. Yep. So
what a fucking good game.
Yes, it is. Foot assassins, by the way.
They said they're assassins.
They are. So what I'm getting at is
weird.
Yeah, they're funny looking. The foot assassins play a big role later in one of the story arcs, especially with one particular assassin.
Okay.
You won't have to worry about that now, but I think it's post issue 50, like right after maybe.
Okay.
So pay attention when that comes.
I can't wait to read 50 because 50 is the one that you've been talking about since we did the start of this 2 years ago.
Oh man, I can't wait to hear your response on that. That whole arc, let alone just issue 50 itself.
And this is when you have they start fighting her like right away, and Alopex runs out the door because she thinks they're there. She thinks the bird is there to kill her, so she's like, "Fuck it, I gotta go."
Well, she don't even know who Koya is yet. I don't think.
Oh,
so she sees. She says this later. She saw the foot assassins, and she's like, "Oh shit, they're here for me."
Yeah, not realizing they're here for everyone, essentially.
Pretty much. They don't care who they kill in this barn. They're just trying to get rid of everybody.
And this is kind of where Raphael makes one of his big fuck up. He leaves his brothers and just charges after her because he thinks she betrayed them and goes to kill her.
Yeah, he makes a big mistake on this one.
Yeah.
This is definitely, I mean, he's wasting valuable resources by fighting somebody that has no intention on hurting anyone.
No, and he's leaving his brothers to fight assassins and a giant bird.
Because Leo is not here yet.
No, and they're kind of getting their ass handed to them because they don't have Raphael. You have the bird about to kill Splinter when Leo shows up with his 2 swords and the blue bandanas on. That was the bird's like, "Are you prepared for the slaughter?" That's funny, bird. I was gonna ask you the same thing, and Leo just standing there. I'm like, this is fucking awesome.
Great ending, nice pose, bandana blowing in the wind for the first time since he joined the Foot Clan initially.
Yeah. Yeah, God, like this is. I thought this arc was only 3 issues, and I realized it's actually 4 issues when I first started reading it. I don't know why my brain just thought 3 parts, but so I was confused. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like they have a whole another issue to deal with what's coming, and then it brings us to the last Northampton issue, and the cover is like a 3-part cover where the center is the bird Akoya. What the hell's the name again?
Koya.
Koya. I don't know why I cannot remember it right now. And then you have Leo on one side and the other 3 turtles on the other with Alopex. And it's just a really cool cover.
Yep. Every cover, I think, in this entire arc has been really good.
This series has some great covers. Oh, and you get a cool fight. You get, Leo jumps at the bird and just starts fighting her right away. And, she's like, and this is when she finally says her name because she calls him the traitor.
So Leo has a rivalry with Rai, well-documented rivalry. He also has one with Koya.
Okay. Because Koya was loyal to Shredder because Koya was the bird and then becomes Shredder. I'm assuming with all the other mutants being gone, she's going to be the right hand for his mutant type thing. I'm assuming. In a sense,
there's going to be. I'm not really ruining anything for you here, but there's going to be more mutants involved eventually.
I figure.
She just so happens to play a role much bigger aside from that as time goes on.
And does one of them like donuts? Donuts! Is that going to be one of them too?
You wish, but no.
That movie's so dumb. I do look forward to Token Razor when they do show up in here. I am excited to see them.
It's not very long, but
that's
interesting when they do.
Consider they're 2 characters made for a movie that was made for kids based on a comic book where they kill people. Hey, I'm all good. No, that's okay. They don't last long. So, but like Akoya is such a freaking like vicious bird though. Or Koya, I keep calling it Koya. Koya is just vicious.
She is a bird of prey, so she's
it makes
doing
sense.
What her instincts are telling her. I mean, you got to think it is kind of frightening in a way for her to have those like talons. Those talons, they did a good job at making it look like they can rip through your torso, and they can if they want it. Oh, and not only that, her wings can cut, as you see Leo getting sliced in his neck or shoulder.
Yeah, he gets a feather cut. Yeah, because she slices his arm, and that's when he throws the shurikens into her body. He's like, "Good, it's not my throwing arm."
I like that. Later on, it was a very well placed shuriken throw.
Yeah, and then you have the foot assassins drop a grenade, essentially, or some kind of grenade thing, which blows up the barn, and Raphael's still not involved because he's still too busy fighting Alopex until the explosion when he finally gets his senses kind of knocked into him, and then she comes back and she helps and she saves his life from a foot assassin, and that's what finally he realizes, oh, I fucked up.
Yep.
That kind of hurt me too. Like I felt bad when I see her walk off in the woods and just leave them because she's like, you were wrong, and just leaves, and I'm like, damn it, that's sad. I wanted her to be part of the group for a little while. Made me sad. I get it though, like, you know, it's hard to go from having someone trying to kill you to having someone be your friend, so get it. You know, whenever anyone tried to kill me, well, actually, I had people threaten to kill me, but that's different. They weren't my friends, so. But it was just, yeah, it just made me sad because I wanted so much more to happen with her, with Alopex. But you do have me excited to see what's coming. I really look forward to that, and I look forward to seeing what her part will be. Because you said I'll appreciate it as it goes on. I
think so. I mean, I think you'll appreciate her more as a character as time goes on.
Okay.
Because it seems like you like her now, which is great.
Yeah,
this is the start of her character development. But yeah, that, like I said, she has longevity to where she's around where I read now. So that should tell you something.
That's definitely cool. I'm glad that she sticks around like that. And then it cuts back and forth to you have April and her family see that there's a fire at the barn, so they go to the barn. She's like, there's something I need to tell you first while they're heading there. And I keep calling him, what the hell? Okoye, it beats the shit out of the turtles. Even Leo, and then Raphael finally shows up, and it's to take on the bird. And this is during that part when they're fighting, they burst through the barn right when she's like, yeah, there's something I really need to tell you. Then just boom, Raphael and Koya fighting each other.
Look at that one panel where Koya says traitors, and she's like swiping at Leo and Splinter.
Oh,
like that reminds me of like beat 'em up boss fight. So, you know, like they're just dodging the boss. It's just this whole scene just kind of reminds me of a beat 'em up boss fight.
That's very fair. And it makes sense that she sees Splinter and Leo both as traitors because both of them were essentially part of the Foot Clan at one time.
Right.
You know, Leo recently and Splinter a long time ago and a time far, far away. But yeah. But God, is she powerful. Like, even when Raphael attacks her, like, she beat the shit. I mean, she's pretty much beat the shit out of him. It isn't until when she's about to kill April's mother when Mikey all of a sudden comes out and hits her with a motorcycle.
Yep, so fixing that thing up was worth it.
Yep, and then he ruins it. But he got a chance to ride it because he makes a comment earlier. He's like, I want to ride it. He's like, I don't think you're going to be able to do that, Mikey. I mean, a turtle driving around, they're going to be wondering, but he gets his chance. And it's so cool. Just that it's just a whole page of him just hitting her with the motorcycle. And that's what finally stops her because, like, they can't beat her. So I thought that was good. And then the part where Leo comes up to Koya and he puts the sword up to her and she's like, kill me. And he raises the sword above his head like he's going to do the Shredder thing and behead. And he just goes, I won't kill you, but you can still die. And if you want, he pulls out the shuriken the well-placed shurikens, or one of them.
Yeah,
so I thought that was good.
Shoulder. But yep, she's bleeding seemingly from an artery and has an hour to live.
Even though, like, yeah, they probably should have killed them all, but I get it. You know, they're not the Mirage Turtles.
Right. So they're Batman in green skin.
Pretty much, yes. And then and then Koya and the assassins leave, and then April has to explain to her mother everything with the mutants and who they are. And this is when she gives the ooze to her mother to save her father. And they know they have to leave Northampton because, well, the Foot knows who they are. So they're like, we're going back to New York, baby. And they just leave Alopex in a tree the last time you see her. And then you have April's mother mixing the... I just caught that. When she's mixing the ooze, the tea says Earl Grey. As a Star Trek fan, one of the teas that Picard drinks all the time is Earl Grey. I don't know. I know Earl Grey is a regular tea, but that's just what I think of when I hear Earl Grey. I think of Picard.
I figured it was some type of reference, but I had no idea what it was.
Yeah, tea, Earl Grey, hot. Next Gen is amazing. You should watch it. So just bear through the first season. That's rough.
That's one reason I haven't started.
Well, it's really just the first, like, 5 episodes are garbage, and it gets good and has, like, 1 or 2 trash episodes later on, but otherwise there's some really good stuff in the early, but it's just, you got to get through some crap. I'm currently watching through it, so. All right, and then, yeah, her father can walk for the first time again. She's like, we got to go. They also know that they got to get the hell out of here, otherwise the Foot might come and kill them.
And he can speak normally, too.
Yeah.
Because he had trouble speaking before.
Which is definitely a thing that a stroke does to a person, which I know for a fact because my line of work, so. Those are all legit, like, what happens to a person, unfortunately, when they go through that. Yeah. And that wraps up the Northampton arc. And then we just have one last issue of Utram Empire to read, which the cover of this looks like propaganda. You have a few different races standing
on purpose. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Just join the resistance today, and it just has red and white in the background, and Triceraton and some other races is standing there. I mean, yeah, it's 100%, and I like that though. I like it that it was propaganda. I'm like, this is cool. That's a cool look you're going for. And the issue starts off with a flashback showing, it kind of cuts back and forth to showing like what was going on with the Utroms. It shows Krang and Albertin Island, but it really shows that the Triceratons were winning the war, and so were the other rebels, and they were killing the Utrons. And Krang goes back to his father, convinces his father to come with him, and his father won't move. He's like, okay, fine, you can die here, and just leaves him, which he does die. So, because the rebels win at this point, until, Krang eventually wipes out more rebels. Except, I don't know if Krang, when he fights the Neutrino in that earlier arc, he's just fighting just the Neutrino, right? Like, he's not going to war with the entire, galaxy like he was before.
Well, I mean, they've had issues with, I think, other races at that point, but the Neutrino arc at that time was solely with the neutrinos at that time.
Okay, he was just trying to take that one planet.
Right.
Okay. Right, and then you have Baxter burning the body of the Flyman and being all upset because he feels like, he's just going to be murdered, but the Fugitoid is just going to turn him in and then he'll be killed, which makes sense. Not what the Fugitoid does. The Fugitoid ends up, when they finally run into each other later, he doesn't turn Stockman and he tells, Stockman, help me. Because he knows he can use them as an ally later.
Yep.
And you also have
a very uneasy alliance where they both want to kind of use each other.
Yeah, and they
Not
save...
my favorite art in this comic either.
And Chet gets tied back, or Fugitoid gets tied back up again if they don't trust him, because, he is the Fugitoid. He's not exactly, I think he's in a room he's not supposed to be in because he's sending out the signal to whoever to help them stop the Technodrome.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they find him, then they tie him up, essentially. He's like, yeah, you're a prisoner here. It's time we start treating you like one. So they lock him up. And then you have, with the flashback, it shows that what Krang did where he put the other Utrom in stasis. You see Dr. Honeycutt. I'm assuming that's supposed to be Dr. Honeycutt was helping with that. And then they go to Burnham Island for the first time. And I think that's all very cool. And you have a little bit with stuff in Northampton, which would have happened before what we just read. Even though this issue takes place after, where just Donnie talking about the Technodrome some more. Just that continuously.
Well, it's him trying to figure out the way in, and he comes up with the teleporter idea. So,
that's what it was.
Figuring it all out finally is when they're on their way back to New York, but it was solely up to him.
And he gets that, and he gets the message from Fugitoid when they're in the bus driving back from Northampton. Except April has hair in this.
Yeah, I guess it's still short, but just not as short as it was in that last issue.
Yeah, so I wonder if it'll be different, because this is a side thing. So I wonder when they get back to the main arc, when they show her, she'll have the short hair again. Like she's supposed
not
to.
My favorite art in this one.
Okay.
And that's part of the reason why.
Okay, I'm looking... No, and then this is when... And then Stockman's going to go kill the Fugitoid, and that's when the Fugitoid says, yeah, we work together, even though he just knows he needs him as an ally. Yeah. And the last, you see the turtles get the message from Fugitoid, and then the very last scene where it says we'll need an army at the last page, you see that Karai and Shredder got the message too about the Technodrome.
Yeah,
it's cool. So I mean,
because Chad has come in contact with Shredder before, so
yes, he betrayed them.
You'll see where that goes actually with Shredder getting involved with Krang, and that's a big one.
Okay, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for more stuff. I'm really excited for Technodrome, but that'll be a little bit before we get to that, but I'm definitely excited for that. So that brings us to our last section, Shelf Stacker Box, and we'll kind of put both of them, each thing, one being Utrom Empire. So I'll go first. I'll put Utrom Empire in the stack because I enjoyed it, but it wasn't anything great. After coming off City Fall, it was kind of hard. Same with Northampton. I'm also going to put that in the stack. I enjoyed it, but it didn't grab me. I couldn't stop reading. And of course, I read these twice. And what about you, Red?
I wish I thought about this ahead of time, but I think in this case I might have to agree with you. You got two stories here that, while they are pretty interesting in their own right, nothing happens to where it's all right, this is monumental. I need to come back and revisit this at some point.
Yeah.
So I guess I'd probably stack them as well. Northampton's kind of is the better one out of the two ongoing storylines at this point. I felt it was pulled off a bit better. I thought it was very important for the turtles' development, and I mean even April's and Casey's at that point. But other than that, yeah, I'd probably have to stack it.
Okay. And for those that are reading along with us, the next one is going to be the 2014 annual, and then we're going to cover the 4 issues of Monster, Misfits, and Madman. That'll be our next episode. So yeah, I look forward to more turtles. And as I said at the top of the show, you'll see all the turtle episodes that we've done in links in the show notes. You can just go copy that and go listen to that. So that way you don't have to go and scroll through our massive catalog or hear me just recite random numbers. You can just click it and it's there. So definitely go check those out. If you enjoyed this episode, we have a Patreon. You can support us as low as $1. You can vote in our Patreon poll. You'll see a link in the show notes for that. We do have a Discord. Join our Discord and chat with us, and you can make recommendations. You'll see that in there in the show notes also. And want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Helena at Hell Has Fear. You can follow her on TikTok. And want to give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker. He has his own podcast, Gamer Looks at 40. So definitely go check him out too. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. Audio only, but we are on YouTube. And I think that's everything I have to say. So we will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye now.